Hey YouTube, just got off of work, working in a crawl space, and that's why I'm so pretty. Just got home, and I figured I would shoot you guys a video and tell you a little bit about myself. It's dark in here. I was born in New Jersey, a little town called Newark, and my parents moved to Ohio shortly after that, from what I remember, what I've been told. And when I was 4 years old, my parents decided that they wanted to move their 3 children to Africa and become missionaries. So in 1986, my parents moved to Botswana, Africa. I went to homeschool for 3 years over there. After that time, we had to come back to continue to raise funds for our time overseas. So we came back for another year and a half and raised enough money to go back for what was supposed to be a 4-year term in Botswana, Africa. We went back for about 2 years, and my grandmother was diagnosed with congestive heart failure, so we had to cut our term short and come back to the States. Came back to the States and went into a private school where I was a little bit less than academic. I goofed off and didn't do so well. So I got pulled back out and was homeschooled for the last 3 years of high school. When I was 17, I was dating a girl whose father ran a one-man operation, much like Talon down there on the North Carolina coast. And she suggested that I should see if I could work with him. So at 17, I was still in high school, but decided that I would work with him on his HVAC business. I would get up at 3 in the morning, do my schoolwork so that I could be to work in Columbus, Ohio. There you go, top doozy one. And then I think there's Jim something. Sorry, I don't remember your name off the top of my head, but we've been talking a little bit in the comments. I worked with him for about 3 years, so I would have been 21, I think, 17, no, 20. And when I started working with him, I was literally a pathetic, useless helper. I would carry his tool bag, help him move equipment that he was not as easily able to move by himself, and clean up the job site after the fact. After 3 years, obviously before then, I was at a point where I was able to take your furnace coil outdoor unit and do 90% of the installation while the boss man ran service calls and maximized his time usage. Learned a lot about sheet metal working at that job, and how to build field transitions. After about 3 years, I felt like I needed to make more money, so I told him that I was going to go look for a larger company to work for. Moved on to a company that did primarily new construction in Delaware, Ohio, and was probably only there for about a year and a half, doing multi-man crew new construction jobs. And the part in that company that I really took advantage of was that you would work your regular job during 8 to 4, and then after hours they would allow you to do a rough-in or a top-out on another house, and they would pay you flat rate for that. So I took a lot of those flat rate jobs and worked some crazy hours. The one I remember, got off of work about 4 or 5 o'clock and finished a 2-story rough-in by 3 a.m. So that I could get paid for that job the next day. Was there for about a year and a half. I got a little bit of a taste of some change out at that company, but once again started looking for more money and moved on to a company out of Lewis Center, Ohio, not too far from Columbus, and went straight into one-man flat rate or piecework new construction. Asked them if I could learn a little bit more of the change-out stuff that I hadn't gotten a grasp of yet, and they allowed me to run with some of the change-out crews. I don't remember how long I spent there. Maybe a couple of years. And I got to the point where it was a matter of trying to bang the job out so quickly just so you could make money on flat rate that I felt like I was killing myself, because I'm not one to just slap things together just to get it done. I was taking more time than most technicians. I was working 12-hour days on average to finish jobs and do them neatly and properly, as much as I was aware of what was proper at that time. I think I made one more company change to a place that was actually a business that was actually in Columbus, over by the defense warehouse off of 270 Beltline. I think whatever time frame I spent there, I moved back to the flat rate company, doing strictly change out for a while, and put in my chopped up resume on the HVAC agent website, looking for more money, better opportunities, and I spread my resume out from California to Florida. Got a call from a company out of Durham, North Carolina, off of the HVAC agent website. They asked for an interview. I had gotten married in there somewhere, and the wife and I drove down to North Carolina and interviewed that weekend. We had looked at our financial situation and decided that I needed X amount of dollars, so we were asking for that dollar amount. It was over $20 an hour that I wanted, and they had their pay scale worked out to where if you knew how to do certain things, it would allow you to make a certain range in money. they said that at that time they couldn't offer me any more than I was making while in Ohio. So I decided, and I told them that I would go back and learn everything I could and look to interview again after I had mastered a few more things. Came back to Ohio after a 2-day weekend drive down to North Carolina. Those are not fun. And put my nose to the grindstone. I learned everything that I hadn't known before about installation, change out, new construction, whatever, and called them back down in Durham and asked for a second interview. And they said, all right, we'll talk to you. So I did another drive down to North Carolina on a 2-day weekend and interviewed. They still weren't going to offer me over $20 an hour, but they settled on a number pretty close, and I said I'll be down as quick as I can. So I've got a wonderful wife who is willing to sacrifice so much for me, and she agreed to move out of Ohio, where all of our friends and family are, and come down to North Carolina with this crazy guy, Stephen Rardon, and start a new life. Worked with the company in Durham for 10 months. My resume sounds great, doesn't it? And after 10 months, one of the guys that I had been working with at this company had got a call from another company out of Raleigh, North Carolina, that was looking to get a change-out foreman. So he interviewed with that company, and he made mention that he had a assistant or work buddy that might be interested in changing over to their company as well, and that was me. So I went over there and spent probably the longest time in my whole career at this company in Raleigh. I believe I was there for about 5 years. In that time, I developed a reputation for having the neatest, cleanest, most visually appealing system installations. I was known for doing my jobs properly, regardless of whether it would take more time to do it right, and I could have hacked it up and done it faster. And there were customers and salesmen that would ask to have Steve install their systems. So I was there for, like I said, about 5 years. 3 years into it, I was getting tired of carrying the lovely package units that North Carolina loves so much. And I asked if I could move into the service department. And they agreed to let me train in the service department. And I spent the next 2 years of my 5 years over there running maintenance and service and learning things in that regard to HVAC. I was looking for an opportunity at that point to move up from just a field technician to some field supervisory role, to where I was not necessarily going to be running as much in the way of calls, but helping train and educate junior technicians. And I made another change in employment. I had 2 short-term employments. One company that I had assumed was going to give me the opportunity to move into supervisory management, and that was not going to be the case. They had a guy that had been there for many, many years, and he was going to be next in line regardless of my desires. So I switched that after a pretty short term, went to another company and actually moved straight into installation manager. Made a good impression generally over there. I believe I was implicating a lot, or implicating whatever, a lot of policies that were going to actually make a difference over the long term. Training installers to braze with nitrogen, purge, trying to educate them on why rather than what to do. At the time, they had several installation techs that were no more knowledgeable about what your thermostat wiring was for than that typically they just wired color to color. And as most of you know, that'll work sometimes, but it doesn't last forever. At some point you run into a ream or a carrier with a black common instead of a blue common, or the air handler has one color, the condenser has another, and it was a nightmare. So I spent a short term there, had a falling out, and moved one more time. Once again, moved to a company back in Raleigh, and spent, I think, 3 years there. I was pledged to take over the installation and the service department as supervisor, and long story short, that didn't work out, so I moved one more time, and I am where I am now, or I ended up where I am now. I've only been at this company for a short period, but I've enjoyed the work. I'm back in a service truck, and don't have a whole lot of promise towards anything higher up, but I'm respected, I'm appreciated, I'm not driven into the ground, and I'm enjoying being back in a service truck for the most part. Long hours, long days, but yeah, I think that's probably about 20 minutes of my life story. As always, thanks for your comments. Like, subscribe, share, and we will see you on the next one. If you were fortunate enough to make it through this whole video without falling asleep, mention my dog Whiskey in the comments down below.